The Blucifer brothers are back. This week, we're breaking down the sadness that is the Broncos re-signing a kicker and releasing everyone else.
Fins up!
And then we're getting into the happiness of the Nuggets winning all the games and deciding not to lose. Dan, play that funky music. We are coming to you live on a Thursday night here in snowy Colorado. Ryan, how is the weather around you? Are you buried in snow? Was it bad in your area? Up here by Dano and I, we fortunately avoided most of it. So it was all kind of an imaginary blizzard for us, which is the best kind of blizzard because you get to not go to work, but it's not really affecting. And I didn't have to shovel a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm apartment living, so while my apartment was not shoveled, I would say till maybe 2-3 p.m. I actually have a non-disparagement clause in my lease, which I believe is illegal. But any lease attorneys could get back to me on that one. And if you are, I actually would love to hear from you because I'm actively trying to get out of this. But we didn't have any shoveling responsibilities. However, we also didn't have that much snow. There was a preemptive cancel by a lot of these school districts, and I hate to sound like an old person, but it felt weak. It did feel a little weak.
As someone who didn't have to go into a school district, I'm thrilled.
I was going to say, I'm happy for you, but I'm, I feel a little old in the moment to be like, well, in my day, like you and I got in a car accident going to school on a day
a blizzard.
Definitely should have been a snow day. So
yeah, they just didn't want to cancel it. Yeah, they didn't want to cancel it because it was finals, and I remember it because you and I left so early, and our mom actually, this is how old we were. She left us a message on our home phone that was like, hey, I left really early. The roads are absolutely terrible. Don't come. Like, I will write you an excuse. Stay at home. Like, do not do this. But we'd already left. So she couldn't call us on a cell phone at that time. So we didn't have those yet. So there were cell phones, to be clear, but our parents hadn't purchased them for us.
No, I didn't get a cell phone until college. So
yeah,
when we were slowly turning, as
it was
slipping on the ice in an HOV lane, I remember thinking to myself, "Why am I driving to my Bible final for Mr. Homan right now? Like, what are we doing right now?"
So dumb. Yeah, it was terrible. But
shout out Mr. Homan.
Shout out Mr. Homan, proud listener of the podcast. But it was a busy week in Denver sports. And of course, here on the Blucifer Brothers, we are a local sports podcast. So let's get into it, Ryan. Let's start off with the Broncos. We talked about it last week. We said goodbye to Russell. That was a joyous occasion. We had some
I don't
less
think I
joyous
took enough joy.
here.
I think I'd like to stop you there. The fact that toxic MFer, I'm going to say, because I'm trying to temper my emotions in the moment, it's not the end of the world, but the fact that toxic guy is off of our team, I don't think that can be understated. I recognize that I think we're both aligned on the moves that they made after this being like a little underwhelming and sort of frustrating, but the fact that they got rid of Russell counteracts all of that in such a powerful way that I don't think they can make a mistake after that move. So I'm just here to say, a weekend, I've been drinking out of my Broncos mug almost every day at work today.
Wow.
This week. Like, I'm back on the train. I recognize that we're in for a long haul, but you know what? Gosh darn it. Sean and I are going to be great friends.
That's good to hear. Because Sean, the cupboard is pretty empty. All right.
Well, he emptied it. He actively threw out. He was like, "Oh, this shit expires in May. Yeah, it's March. I'm good." I'm all set, man. No worries.
Not gonna eat it.
Yeah.
That Sean is doing the rarely seen, at least in my household. This is my dad quality around leftovers. Kesha will want to throw things out early in the week, and I'll say that's wasteful. I'll eat it, right? I never end up eating it, right? Never end up eating it. It's always like,
well, that's not a dad quality then. The dad quality is
like,
when you eat it and it's not, it is actively bad, which is what I can tell you that I do. Like Sophie will bring something home and I'm like, I know I'm going to end up eating that 3 days from now when I'm questioning whether it's good or not.
No.
That's the difference between me doing this podcast in a closet and you doing this podcast in your office, you know? Like that's the difference. We're
you may not be wrong.
You know, your levels. There's levels to this.
What I'm saying is that the other thing that I think must be stated, if I can defend myself a bit, I agree with you. The true, like the 10 out of 10 dad mode would 100% be saying never throw out food in this house. And
our dad used to call himself the dump truck. Like he prided himself on being like, I'm not going to order anything. I'm literally just going to eat what other people leave behind.
Yeah,
he was a raccoon.
Yeah, we were raised by the raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Never seen it, but yeah, I'll believe you.
Yeah, but I will say, it is hard to cook for a 2-year-old because Bodhi could eat 30 pounds worth of dinner or 0 pounds worth of dinner.
I've seen the kid
and if you
eat
do
4
not have
pieces
30
of pizza.
pounds,
I've seen the kid eat 4 pieces of pizza, which was more than what I ate. I was like, I was kind of going pound for pound. I'm like, all right, this 3-year-old is not going to out eat me. And all of a sudden he does. And I'm like, well,
metabolism is no joke.
Yeah.
When he's enthused, he's enthused. Yeah. So we always make enough under the idea that we may need to have the 30 pounds ready for our guy. And then there's sometimes where the wife will have seconds. Sometimes she doesn't. So you're really cooking for 4, but sometimes you're cooking for 1.5. So sometimes
7.
I have already eaten the same meal 3 straight days. And then a new leftover comes into play. And I'm like, I'm not going back to that one. I can't do it. But my point of all of this digression was Sean Payton just threw out the leftovers a little early. He was like, hey, like Justin Simmons, you're unbelievable. We're never going to be good while you're still good. Like, here you go, buddy. Why would we pay you?
It's the Bill Belichick.
That was a sad move,
little bit,
but a necessary one, right? Yeah. Like
it's Von Miller.
Yeah,
like we let Von go. You know, it's I listen. I am not excited by Sean Payton. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, even as a newly rejuvenated Broncos fan who hated this. I'm a born-again Broncos fan. I hated this team. I could not stand Russell Wilson. I can't sit here and say that, I'm standing. I'm at a standing desk, if you couldn't tell by my voice. A super fit guy over here. But that's something Russell Wilson would say, which makes me want to jump off a ledge. I don't understand how we can look at the situation and in good conscience say, I think Sean Payton's going to fix this. I don't think he is. Like, he has been a part of an organization that has been very stable and very, arguably too stable. Like, the only argument against what the Saints did is that they didn't go all in. They never took a real risk. They never did anything that was outside of the norm. So we have that as our basis. So anybody who's like thinking big here, you need to settle down. This team
Here's my question for you, Ryan.
This team is at most going to be fun. At most.
Do you think Peyton is running it, or do you think which Peyton, I guess, do you think is running it? Do you think it's George or do you think it's Sean? Because that's the part that drives me crazy. I think it was time to totally tear this down to the studs. I think you have too many players who are part of a losing culture.
We're on the same page here.
And you've got to go down to the studs. But I don't trust George Payton to be the one that then, like,
I think it's the worst case scenario. I think it's the worst case scenario. It's that George is in charge and Sean thinks he can boss him around. It's the worst case scenario. Like, George is like, oh, I am actually in charge of this. Like, I am the general manager. I am, talking to the head of Walmart and Condoleezza Rice about the moves that I'm making. Like, that guy feels really fucking important because that you can't not feel important in that job. Like, of course you feel
and
important.
a lot of stories leaked when he didn't get fired. There were some clear.
Where do we think those were coming from?
That were like, he's still well regarded around the league. A lot of people still believe in him and what an intelligent guy. And I'm like, cool, dude. That's awesome that you're so intelligent. Could you use some of that intelligence on the Broncos, or did you use it all for Minnesota? Like, do you have any brain cells to spare for the Broncos, do you think? Or, like, when is that genius going to come in?
Nobody, including Dan, is going to like to hear this, but the Broncos are heading more towards the direction of the Rockies than they're heading towards the Nuggets. They are investing in the wrong things. They don't care about the right things. They don't even understand what they're doing is counterproductive to their overall goal. Like, that's the most frustrating part about the Rockies, is that they think that what they're doing is right. And what they're doing is counterproductive to what they say their overall goal is. And that is exactly what the Broncos are doing. They're not, like, unless they make a big trade and get one of these superstar quarterbacks, I don't think that anything they've done in this offseason is worth it. Like, you can't free up all this cap room. You can't do. Justin Simmons is a money move. We made a money move because why? Like, the Waltons aren't broke. The salary cap in the NFL is bullshit. Like, figure it out. Don't sign Garrett Bowles. Like, Justin Simmons means something to fans, and it feels like they're unbelievably disconnected. It's Tulowitzki all over again. Like, this is the timeline that we're on. This franchise hasn't been good in almost a decade. Yeah, no, it's getting pretty bad out there. I will say George Payton is, for all of his leaked media reports about being a genius, I have watched him get outmaneuvered by a guy I watched get multiple concussions in his late 30s, and John Lynch. Like, I just watched him get brain damage for the Broncos, and that's not even talking about the Bucs. Like, it's not good. But I do want to go through. So Simmons, I agree with you. And maybe Simmons indicated, like, hey, I want to go try to win a Super Bowl. In which case, I think it's the right thing, but I think that would have gotten leaked. If you're not leaking that, you're not doing your job. That's the overall point. That's the the Rockies' problem. That's a Rockies maneuver where, like, okay, Tulo doesn't want to sign. It's not like Tulo's requesting a trade. It's like the Rockies are shopping Tulo. Go look smart. Do something smart. Yeah. Like, I am willing to be hired by them, but do something smart.
Yeah, because otherwise, you're right. You do what every other smart team does, and you go, hey, Simmons, are you okay with restructuring your contract with 50% of it as a signing bonus that doesn't count against the cap, like Travis Kelce did? Like,
or Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, like, you just restructure it so that it's not
signing bonus. And it's signing bonus. What is the point of the Walmart franchise owning like, this is my biggest frustration, and I'm not going to stop on this. Like, Blucifer Brothers listeners, buckle in because your boy's back, and I'm not going to stop. The Walmart franchise should be taking advantage of the signing bonus over and over and over and over again. We should be getting every superstar with $100 million signing bonus and a minimal fucking salary. This is the cheat code to the NFL. It's the only ownership that truly is liquid. Like, let's go. If you're really that rich and you're really interested in making a franchise really good, invest. Just do it. Nobody has ever, you name another time anybody has ever lost money investing in a professional sports franchise. I have an MBA.
That, Ryan.
I will wait. Like, you could send it to me. I would love to look at it. It doesn't exist because they're in the ether. You're about to sell the rights again to Sunday Ticket. Like, this is just fake money. You are literally throwing fake money at an investment to make money. So do it. Don't be pussies. Do it.
Yeah. I will say the other departures I kind of liked. Cushenberry, I know he was graded out high, but that guy absolutely sucked for every other year. And this has, hey, you had a contract year coming up written all over it. We have a good offensive line coach. That's one of the benefits of Peyton is he brought in a good line coach with him. So I think that we're in a good spot there. So I agree with not paying him. And I also cannot express the joy. It's not quite the joy you felt with Russell Wilson leaving, but not having to watch the villains in Remember the Titans of Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton together, a.k.a. the Milkchick brothers.
I just watched Remember the Titans.
Austin Eckler. Like, brings me a joy that I'll never know.
It's
like
the one kid before they go to camp, the kid that gets paralyzed. What's his fucking name?
No, it's the guy. No. Josie Jewell's the one who quits the team, who he stops being friends with. He is absolutely that guy.
Yeah, you're right.
I understand he was on offense and he wasn't going to block, but it's that. Or he's the guy that the guy got kicked out of the Hall of Fame for defending his player against, where the guy kicked him in the helmet on the way out. And there was no penalty.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Josie Jewell, you went to a perfect conference, by the way. This is how you know he's a classic smart guy. He said, hey, where are all the terrible quarterbacks? They probably can't even complete a pass to a running back. This will be great. I'm going to be unbelievable out there. The NFC South, baby. Like, give me Baker. Give me freaking the Hobbit that went number one over there in Bryce Young. And then you've got Kirk Cousins, who might put up numbers, but you're probably going to win.
I think
and he's definitely going to throw you the ball.
I do think he signed with the Panthers, so he's.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, he can intercept Bryce Young except in practice, which will be a nightmare for Bryce Young. Yeah, no.
You talk about a confidence builder. He's going to be like, dude, that running back was wide open, but it did hit our nose tackle in the helmet again. So we'll never know if he would have caught it. You know, he's going to be like, I could have caught up to it. And everyone's going to be like,
the tape is going to be unbelievable. Buddy. The tape will be really good from practice.
Yeah. K'Wan Williams, don't care. Chris Mannertz, don't care. And Jonathan Hanners, don't care. Now let's get to the big news.
There was no talent on the team, Kyle.
No.
This is the thing that people in Denver don't understand. And I'm here to tell you, as a recent convert, your team sucked. They were fucking awful. There was no good part of it. There wasn't a wide receiver core. There wasn't an offensive line. There wasn't a defensive line. There wasn't a linebacking core. And there was only one cornerback. And his name is Pat Surtain. And one safety.
And we released
it.
Yeah.
So we didn't even get anything for him. So
why would
the cupboard is bare. So there's
Could not be more bare.
There's nothing there. The infrastructure is shit. And everybody's like, you should trade up to get Drake May. I'm like, Drake May might be good. What happens if he's good? We're going to ruin a quarterback. I don't want to ruin
That's what I was going to say.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, we're at the stage of our franchise where we're so dysfunctional and there's such a lack of talent that it would be honestly hard to evaluate a rookie quarterback, because you'd be like, well, it's like Bryce Young, where you're like, well, there was no good players for him to throw it to. Yes, he looked very short and bad, but also their offensive line sucks. There's no weapons that you fear. Like, it couldn't be a worse situation. I do want to get your Jerry Jeudy takes here as a new convert. So the Broncos, they traded him to Cleveland. They got rid of $13 million in salary. They got a 5th and a 6th round pick in exchange. Do we think that Jerry is going to come back to haunt the Broncos, or do we think he's going to continue to just be a tantalizing talent, but not necessarily productive?
I think he and Deshaun Watson deserve each other.
Yeah, I think that's
all right. I will say. I think they are both great talents that I would absolutely rather not root for. So Go ahead. Enjoy.
I think it's very telling, by the way, that the comparison I was going to make, Jerry Jeudy did it in a press conference, and Bones Highland did it in an Instagram post, but they both said, I feel wanted here. Bones, how wanted do you feel in the Clippers? Jeudy, how wanted are you going to feel when it's like, hey, we're throwing to Njoku and Cooper. Those guys are always actually open and good. You drop it and have stone hands. I think this was a good move. I think this was addition by subtraction. And to your point, we have so many holes that we need about 100 draft picks, which is unrealistic. Like, we need the Oklahoma City Thunder's amount of draft picks. And that's impossible. But so, like, getting more swings at the apple is good because, like you said, we need linebackers. We need cornerbacks. We need a quarterback. We need wide receivers. Like, we restructured Tim Patrick, and everyone was like, oh, dope, we get to keep Tim Patrick. That guy's coming off of 2 major knee injuries, and he's in his 30s. What are the chances that goes well? Probably not. And if it does, it's probably a 2-year injury, and we're not even going to see it, and this will release him, and the second year he'll be good somewhere else.
I think the thing that...
Finishing your Rockies point will be a farm system, and Tim Patrick will go be good somewhere else.
Well, I think the thing that people do underestimate is that I've been on really talented teams, like extremely talented teams, that have not performed because they didn't like each other. Like, the key factors in the team didn't like each other. And if you have Jerry Jeudy, who is undeniably a talent, like, nobody on a football field is going to watch Jerry Jeudy in practice and be like, that guy's not good at football. Nobody's going to say that. And there's going to be some portion of the locker room that is saying, hey, Jerry Jeudy should get more targets. And that is kind of... it's insurmountable to a certain extent when he hasn't proven that he can perform at a level that you need to feed him the targets that he thinks he should get, and those people in practice think he should get, and that sector of the locker room thinks he should get. Like, it's kind of why I think Zeke Najee is bad for the Nuggets. Like, I'm not sure that we could give him the amount of minutes that he actually deserves, and it creates sort of a tension. And so I understand it, but I don't like it either. Like, it's talent. You're getting rid of talent. And I have some rookie cards that are now much less valuable because he's wearing a fucking Broncos jersey instead of a Browns jersey. So, yeah, I'm disappointed. I'll admit it.
Yeah, I mean, I think also like all of these moves have to be seen in the vacuum of we are a traditionally successful franchise, and most people our age are not used to the Broncos sucking. And these are all moves that we were calling for last year at the trade deadline, where we said, bottom out. You are not as good as you think you are. Bottom out. We want draft picks. We want to be in the sweepstakes for Caleb Williams. We want those changing things. The most wild thing that you can do to catapult yourself into contention immediately is you draft a rookie quarterback who's unbelievable. You hit on that, and you have a top 10 quarterback with bottom 10 quarterback money. And so the rest of your roster becomes unbelievable around them. Obviously, the bill comes due, and you've seen that with the Chargers. Now they're having to release talent because the Justin Herbert money is coming due. You saw it with the Chiefs even. They didn't get to have all the high-powered tools that they wanted, and they have to take swings on guys. Like they have Stone Hands Tony out there because he's a tantalizing talent like
They
Judy.
have won a Super Bowl.
They both can't catch.
They've won Super Bowls with honestly underdeveloped talent at the skill positions because Patrick Mahomes is so good. Like there are certain positions in the NFL that you can sort of like over exaggerate for, and
you can scheme them up.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like Jokic is that for the Nuggets right now. You can't, he is Mahomes. You can't scheme for him. You can't do anything. You just have to assume that they're going to do something unbelievable, and you have to do something equally or better than that to beat them. And it's not fair, but it is the way that it is. And honestly, as Broncos fans, we just have to accept the fact that Patrick Mahomes is going to be in the division for the next 10 years. So it's kind of over. Like, I'm not anticipating the Broncos winning an AFC championship outside of like a random fluke year where everything hits right, like the Brock Osweiler, Peyton Manning Super Bowl. Like that was an unbelievable year, but everything broke right. That is what they're going to need to compete with that Patrick Mahomes level of team. And that's in the division. Like, it's not that it's some random AFC team that I'm pulling out of nowhere. Like, we play them a lot. So it's
twice a year.
To me, it's over.
Yeah. I think that this is an honest assessment, and I wonder if this was part of the feedback that Peyton got. It was, hey, you can keep your job, but we're rebuilding. Like, we've seen this, and there's not enough disguises out there. Also, we can't forget all of the leaked reports and all of the Peyton flirty interviews at the Super Bowl week of he wants to go big in this draft. So you can't analyze this offseason without seeing a draft. I don't see a path to anything besides Justin Fields. Which I think we're kind of Justin Fields guys on this podcast in terms of we feel like that's at least exciting. But
it's a watchable
I totally
product.
get it. It's not
a watchable product next year. You're going to be excited and you're going to be disappointed by Justin Fields. I want to ask you, though.
His mobility covers up for a lot of talent flaws.
I think
which is what you need.
The recap of this conversation is that I have sort of come around to your point of view from last week's pod, where you were like, I don't actually think we have to take a quarterback in this draft, which I can't believe that I'm saying that we might not have to. But if you had to stay at 12, what are you doing? Like,
I'm getting that cornerback from Alabama. That's what I want. I want the cornerback from Alabama. We just went through our roster, and
is he big? I don't know.
Oh yeah, about him. Yeah. No, he's He's
so
a beast.
We could play Surtain in the slot, and then this guy.
It would be. Remember when the Jaguars had Bouye and the guy who won the Super Bowl with the Rams?
Ramsey.
I don't know why. Ramsey. It's like when they had those two guys, and with freaking Bortles, they almost beat the Patriots.
Yeah.
And they were talking wild stuff. It's like that, where you're just like, this is pretty tough
and
to go up against.
Does have the Alabama connection, so he's not going to be upset about it.
Yeah. No. He'd be pumped about it. But okay.
I'll do more research. You know that I was in on Surtain.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've got, you want to talk about rookie cards that I'm more invested in. I've got a lot of Surtain rookie cards. And I've got a jersey. So
he's unreal. And, I think that's, I think you have too many holes on your roster to swing at 12. You can swing in later rounds. And I talked about that last week on the pod, but you've got to get talent in this room because, like you said, the cupboard's bare. Like we are talking about our signings right now. We've signed a fullback, Troutman, and we re-signed Will Lutz, Ryan.
Yeah, I know.
To a 2-year effing deal. What are we doing? Like,
hey, he's vital to the locker room.
Old Saints. Like, we've got Roach. Like, we're just re-signing old Saints.
It feels like we're not actually trying to get better. It feels like we're trying to sign competency. And that's a different thing, right? Like, we have to be prepared to watch a competent but bad football team for the next 5 years. So it's going to be tough. I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I wish Russ was still here so I could still cheer for the Dolphins.
I don't. I'm not super pumped about the team, but I will say I could enjoy my Sundays if we get Justin Fields. I think that's a path to it being a bad team, but
I'm so happy that we're on the same page here. What do you think? What do you think the odds of that are, though? Because they don't feel that good to me.
Drying up. The market's kind of drying up. Like you're getting less and less out there with now the Falcons are out, right? Like they have Kirk. You have obviously Seattle staying with Geno.
They just signed a backup too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's not as many teams as you would think are out there. Like maybe the Raiders, but like why do the Raiders, like
the Raiders feel more like the trade up candidate to me than the Broncos even do. So
yep.
I don't know. It's hard for me to honestly process because I've been calling this since August of last year, saying that we should get Justin Fields. So if it actually happens, Dan, we're gonna have to find some clips. Like, I mean, this might be the all-time call here if I get this right.
And it's a way for us to be excited about it, right? Like I think it's just a good like he's perfect. If you're Walmart and you're a business guy, you just say, "Hey, we're gonna suck, but this is a way to be fun and suck."
All we want.
You might. What if you hit and you're like, "Oh, we have our quarterback. Now we can start drafting wide receivers. We can start drafting. We don't have to draft a quarterback ever, but we're still going to have a top 10 pick." Like, you know what I mean?
You do have to
because the rest of the team is so
eventually
bad.
You have to draft a quarterback, but
I'm saying, what if Fields and Peyton turn it on? Like, there's a world in which Peyton or Fields has not been with
Kyle,
the most ingenious.
You're speaking my love language.
Yeah, like he's not been with the most ingenious play callers out there.
Say it
There's
slower.
A world in which Peyton unlocks it.
Say it deeper.
Yeah. When we've gotten to this point in the podcast, I think it's good to transition. So Did you have any other Broncos thoughts? I feel like we can't fully analyze this until draft free agency is officially done.
I still think the last thing I would say, I guess, is that like I still hope that they take a swing on quarterback in the draft. I'm not swaying from that position. I know we disagree, but like I want them to try to trade up, try to get Drake May, try to get one of these guys. I want a guy. And but if we can't, you know that I love Justin Fields. You know that I love that opportunity, and I do think that's the best value. So
to me, Fields is better than I think Fields has the potential to be better than anyone in this draft but Caleb Williams. And so if you're not getting Caleb Williams,
you're not going to get Caleb Williams.
I think if you don't believe in Justin Fields, then you sit on it, and then you know what we're in, Ryan. We're in the Shador sweepstakes, baby. Bring Shador home. I don't actually believe that, but you know that's going to be all over the place. Or we draft the Alabama corner, then we draft Travis Hunter, and we just say, in a world of throwing, you can't throw on us. We have Travis Hunter.
Unfortunately, Patrick Mahomes can throw on anybody, so we're going to have to be able to score 14 points, which has been a struggle. It's been a struggle. Dude, we haven't been able to score 14 points very much. So
that's where we put Travis on offense. But that's the Broncos. Let's get to a more positive topic. The Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets are back in the 1 seed. They are absolutely on fire. They just swept the Heat in a game that was just kind of like the finals, right? Like, and very similar to the first game. The Nuggets came out in the first quarter, looked like they were going to absolutely run away with the game. And then because they're the Nuggets, they messed around and let it stay close. And then in the third quarter, it looked like maybe they were going to pee down their leg a little bit, and they ended up 1. The bench, shout out Christian Brown and Peyton Watson. There's something about Miami.
Christian Brown.
There was a video in which it appears that. Listen, I'm inspiring him, Ryan. We're getting back to our roots. It's playoff time, Ryan. I can't be calling him by his real name. What do you think inspired him last time in Miami? Also, there was that video where it did appear that Shakira was waving to him. So shout out her.
Shakira.
Yeah, that would be a good thing for his swag. I'll tell you that.
All I can tell you is that if Shakira is listening, which we know she does listen from time to time, my
when her schedule
also
allows,
don't lie.
Yeah, when you're right, you're right. But the Nuggets are kind of looking unreal right now. They have lost 1 game in overtime that they lost because Durant hit an amazing 3 over Aaron Gordon.
What was the game? What was the game that I texted to you guys? Was that it was that Kings? I think it was Celtics Kings. We played back to back at home, something like that.
Yep. And no Fox for the Kings, but yeah.
Yeah, in the first half of that Celtics game, I think I texted the group of people that we have season tickets with, and I said, we're winning the championship. Like, this is the most confident I've felt in a Nuggets team since last playoffs. I don't think that they're, barring injury, knocking on wood, like, right. I don't think that there's a scenario in which some team can beat them, can solve this in 7 games. That's what I keep coming back to. On a game-to-game basis, sure. You might be able to catch Jokic on an off night. You might be able to catch... You're going to have to catch 2 people on an off night. You're going to have to either catch Jokic and Murray, or Murray and Porter, or some combination of the 3 in order to win games. And that just doesn't happen very much anymore because these people have been through... I mean, we've been watching them in season tickets for 5 years. take these scars and they just don't get rattled. So it's very difficult to envision a scenario in which they get beat. So I think I'm the most confident I've ever been in a Nuggets team, and it's a scary place to be in, just like it was last year when I was saying the same stuff, 2 months from now during the playoffs when I thought we would win. Like, but it feels like that. That's how I feel.
Yeah, the biggest development to me has been obviously like Porter has really looked good. Obviously he messed up Miami, and then he was kind of like, did you see how open those threes were? Like,
I took him.
There were times where like Miami was like, well, we're gonna double down. Like they were trapping Jamal with 2, and then Jokic just flashed across for the backbreaking 3. So of course you're sinking down on Jokic, and it was one pass offense. And Porter was like, I mean, sure.
And
like I will shoot a wide open 3.
Now he takes a dribble.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate just sort of FU to the defense, where he is literally taking a dribble and sidestepping because it makes him feel more comfortable. Like his performance, I bet on him over 4.5 threes before the last game. And he hit 3 in the first quarter, and I was like, I've never felt more confident in something. Whereas, in years past, he would fade in the second half. He was a first half player.
Like, take the under. Take the under
exactly.
line.
Like, you'd see that live line and see exactly the opposite. And that's the most dangerous part. And we did not have that last year. I don't think we would have said this time last year about Michael Porter Jr. So that is this very scary prospect for the entire rest of the NBA.
I also think the other thing that I really wanted to highlight about this Nuggets team is there was I don't know, study. I guess study would be the word. But they observed some of the teams that are most successful are teams that just have the most physical contact with one another. So they keep track of it, like how many high fives, how many stuff. And Malone talked about it after the Heat game of Murray and those guys saying, like, hey, Christian and Reggie are rocking. Let them have their moment. Like, we're good. We don't need to go back in just because it's our time. They're cooking. Let them cook. And I think that the Porter Jokic connection now, I can't remember the last time I saw Jokic just like, he didn't actually F-bomb Porter when he would turn around and walk up the floor, but it was as close to a nonverbal FU as you could get.
That
I don't see that anymore.
No, that I love this. This is actually the thing. If you've been a long-term listener to the pod, you have heard me bring up this exact dynamic, because I felt like early in Porter's career, Jokic didn't like playing with him, which is a death nail. It's a death nail to your career in Denver. Like, you can't be as talented as Michael Porter Jr. is and have the best player on the team not want to play with you. That's just not going to work out. And it put the Nuggets in a difficult position because obviously Michael Porter Jr. is one of the best players on the team, and he wasn't able to fit in. The last 2.5 years of his career have been like a complete 180. He's a way more dynamic player. He's figured out how to play off the pick and roll. He has that like stop and pop. He has the sidestep 3. He has the cutting off of the weak side, even when AG is in that dunker spot. Like, there are so many things that Michael Porter Jr. does on a night-to-night basis that he never would have done in that type of scenario. So I think it's a great point by you in that, like, there are so many.
The connection I think is stronger with this year's team even than it was last year, which is 100%. A weird thing to say. But I feel like there's that. And you saw it. Jokic is starting to go, okay, in those minutes where Murray comes out early and we take him out, about the 6-minute mark, and then we try to survive. Or if it's probably not 6, it's more like 5 now that we're trying to win games. But it was 6 in some of those early ones. But we don't take Porter out early, right? We stagger those two. And now you're starting to see Jokic go, okay, I'm going to go to Porter's wing. And whether that's me posting up or whether that's me there. And he gets him some shots. And he gets him going. And it's Porter now the trust is there for him to do that rather than before. It would be like, why are you playing through Christian? Like, he's fun, but Michael Porter's over there. Yeah. Like, let's get threes that are wide open from the best 3-point shooter. Let's do that. Like, it felt like it was a thing, like you said, that they didn't enjoy playing with each other, all that stuff, and they both made adjustments, and they both done that. And now it makes those minutes all the more dangerous because then you come back and you don't lose the Murray minutes, and now Murray's coming back, and he's fully loaded, and he's starting to hit some of those shots. He's looking even better, and it's a problem, Ryan, for the NBA. And the other thing that I wanted to shout out, you mentioned him last podcast as maybe turning it around, and I wasn't as bullish, I guess, on him. But
I don't think
Christian.
I mean, I'm all here to hype up my podcast host, but I think you were less than bullish. You were a little down.
I said he was about the same. I was like,
he's my boy.
Yeah,
you insulted my boy.
Listen, this is how I feel. But
no,
CB
has played a lot better, and I think I brought it up weeks ago. I mean, he was dealing with that calf injury at the beginning of the year, and I told you, I mean, like, that stuff just lingers. And I think he is finally rounding into form, and he is not. So this is actually, it's a good segue because we didn't talk about this pre-podcast, but I did actually watch one of those Heat games from the finals last year in Miami, and it happened to be it was just on NBA TV, and I was like, I'm automatically in on this. And so I ended up watching it, and the biggest takeaway to me was that Christian Brown was unbelievable in that game. I think he had like 20 points. It was the game that he went off, right?
Yeah. And it was the one where Jokic got in foul trouble and him and Bruce Brown just won us the game. Yeah.
The only thing that he did was pass the ball and cut. Like, he was doing
and then nothing. In transition, he was downhill.
But there was nothing in his game where I wasn't like, oh, he's just regressed in this. It was just he was doing a better job of finishing at the rim. He looked different. Like that. It's just like, I think the guy was hurt. Is hurt. And I think he is finally finding his form. And I think we are a really dangerous team when Peyton Watson and Christian Brown are coming off the bench and playing well, because Peyton Watson is playing. I mean, I said, you could go back 6 weeks ago. I said that I thought that Justin Holiday should be taking Peyton Watson's minutes. That's essentially what I was implying with my rhetoric. And I could not disagree with myself more, but Justin Watson is getting minutes, and he should, or Justin Holiday is getting minutes because he should. He's playing really well. So I think that
I would trust Justin Holiday in a tight
series.
Whistle game. Oh. I would trust him to come in the Suns and say, all right, dude, you got Beal. Go chase him around. You know what I mean? Like, we need you to buy us 10 minutes in this game.
He is honestly perfect. He is a great playoff player. He's and Malone is puppeteering this team. Like, I know that Coach of the Year goes to just whoever makes the biggest
I wanted to talk about this on the podcast. I saw it, shout out D-Line Co. today, where he was like, hey, we have no other All-Stars. We've never had anyone selected besides Jokic to any All-NBA teams. We're the number 1 seed. We're the defending champs. Why is Mike Malone not coach of the year?
Michael.
No. I called him Mike last year. It worked for us then, Ryan. I'm going back. We can't afford
I don't think
to
Michael
do anything.
is going to like
he can
that
be offended all he wants. But
well, Michael,
listen, it motivated him.
I will.
He was a little ornery last playoffs, and I liked it. I got to get him back to that, Mike.
I will call you Michael, and Kyle could call you Mike,
which you did,
and then we can meet in the middle here. But no, I didn't know that he had said that. I didn't see that, but I completely agree with him. I mean, it's honestly like at a certain point, Jokic gets too much credit, and I think it's hurt Jamal, and it's probably hurt Michael. So, and I mean that Porter Jr. and Malone. Like, it hurts everybody on the team.
Well, so here's my thing, though. So today on the TNT podcast, we've had national guys. We've had Stephen A. Smith going on Tatum is the MVP. We've had Shaq saying Shea is the MVP. We've had, like all this stuff, right? So, okay, either one of these things has to be true, okay? Either the All-Star game voting is meaningless and Gordon and Pope should be on all defensive teams. Jamal Murray should be he won't be eligible because of the 20-minute rule for 65 games played. He's sat out with some injuries where he'll play enough games to meet the requirement, but not the 20-minute requirement. But like either he should get recognition, Gordon, somebody, or Michael Malone is a diabolical genius and he has Jokic in a bunch of crap and he throws it all together because he's Spoelstra and Popovich combined. Like, you have to give someone credit. Like, either Jokic is an all-time great or, and I don't mean like all-time great, like, oh yeah, he'll be in the Hall of Fame. He'll already be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, even Tim Duncan, who people say is the greatest power forward of all time, has Manu and Tony Parker in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Right now, it will be hard to put Jamal Murray in the Hall of Fame because he has zero All-Star appearances or All-NBA.
He's not getting there. If his career ended tomorrow, he would not be a Hall of Fame player.
Right. So I hope, with the championships and that, sometimes that stuff comes later in the career, and that's a stupid way to do it because there's people like Nick Wright who go, you have to show me and then you win the awards. It's like, no. Why don't you just give the awards to the people who actually play the best? But the Michael Malone, and we've had throughout the podcast and throughout our years, we've had our issues with Michael Malone. He's coached his ass off this year. He has played it perfect. He didn't lose his mind at the All-Star break, which he wanted to. When they looked like crap and gave no effort into the All-Star break, Michael Malone was itching to call everyone a not nice word.
I'm going to interrupt.
You know what I mean?
I'm going to interrupt. I'm going to interrupt. Well. Hold on. I'm going to interrupt. He definitely did. He did.
Well, but I mean,
we just didn't hear about it, which is that is the evolution of a coach, which I think is your overall point. And I get it. Like, somebody should be recognized, but I think as Denver fans, again, like, I'm just going to come in here and be the realist. Like, we're never going to get that recognition. And honestly, I don't give a shit. It does not matter to me. And do you know why? Like, if Jokic really cared about the award, right? And he was, it wasn't even like he was advocating for it, but he really thought that it defined his legacy in some way. I would be advocating for him as hard as anybody in the media space, whatever that means, like, because he's the best player in the NBA. He is the most valuable player in the NBA. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is amazing and might be better for the NBA to vote MVP. Like, just in terms of the long-term prospects of the game, like, sure, whatever. If you want to give SGA the MVP, that's fine. But what I'm saying is that you can't deny that this guy is the best player in the NBA. I don't care how you define most valuable player, but there is one best player, and it's Nikola Jokic. And he gives you an advantage, which is why I've been saying we should bet on him to win the division. I'm saying we should bet on him to win the MVP. Like, all of these things are baked into him just being better than everybody else, despite what a voter might think, right? Like, you have to differentiate between a voter and what you watch every night as a basketball fan.
Yeah, I just think, I guess I agree with you in terms of I am over. You will have noticed on my social media, I've engaged zero with the MVP discussion. I'm not engaging with anyone about it. I don't care. Jokic doesn't care. Jokic's legacy is secure, and I agree with you that I think that most people who will actually watch basketball agree he's the best player in the game right now. And it's not like when you see player rankings, there's not a lot of dispute around that. And so, like MVP, honestly, whatever. It's like
honestly the best part about well, I think we do have to soak in this moment a little bit. Like, I don't want to just pass over it because I think that it matters that Jokic matters in the general discourse of the NBA, right? Because I think there's a lot of fluff to the NBA media where it's like, oh, it's really highlight-based culture that Jokic does not play into. But I think he's actually grown in popularity in a way that is admirable to the NBA, and that they have done a decent job in making him like
for sure. But I'm just
marketable in his own way, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just talking about awards now, right? Like, because that's where we started from. And so I'm kind of fine with Nikola Jokic. I totally understand that over the next few years, similar to, and this is not an invitation to say he is them, but similar to Jordan, similar to LeBron, similar to those guys, like technically they should have won MVP every year for, 6 to 8 years, but there's voter fatigue. There's new guy on the block, kind of what you're talking about with SGA, right? Like, hey, we're tired of voting for the same guy. But to me, the part that I am getting a little bit more passionate about is the rest of their nuggets and the rest of this culture getting its due. As far as, like, even Zach Lowe, who's a smart guy, and I respect him, he talked about, like, I have a hard time due to his size putting KCP on my all defensive team.
Give me a fucking break. That's
for what? He locked Jason Tatum's ass up.
No.
He wasn't too small for that. Yeah. He's locked Steph Curry up. Like,
I love
he's
this.
locked Devin Booker up.
Yeah.
Like, give this man his props. AG.
They call him first team in the locker room. They call him first team in the locker room. Yeah.
Like, I understand that Jamal Murray is inconsistent and that the guards in the West are wild. I'm not delusional in that. And I do think that the fact that there are games where Jamal Murray will not play well should matter.
When I make my All-NBA team,
there needs to be recognition.
When I make my All-NBA team, I don't put Jamal Murray on it. Like, no, I wish I could. No. I wish I could. I just don't. No. Like, the guards are too good. They're unbelievable in the West. So it's hard for him, and I recognize that. Like, that is very difficult. Do you know what solves that wound better than anything? Another fucking championship ring. And I think I think that's what Jamal Murray is after. And I don't think he cares about, like, he is very much like Jokic. He does not care about this stuff. Like, he cares, I think, more than Jokic does, and he'll never admit it, but he does have this, like, UFC sort of, like, Zen attitude towards, like, it is what it is.
Austin Rivers
it is what
talked
it is.
about it. Like, he's like, Murray's like Jokic. He's like, he doesn't care about the other stuff. So I do think that, but I think Murray gets the recognition because he does show out in big games and he has had huge playoffs in the bubble. Like, in the general NBA discourse style of things, like, he does get the recognition. But this is not the Nuggets team of Facu Campazzo and those guys that Jokic dragged to 50 wins. Like, this is not that. Like, it's not close to that. These are very good players who would be very, very good. And if we offered the Lakers KCP for Austin Reeves, they would say yes in 0.5 seconds.
It's if why we offered I told you. Suns, it's why I told you that we should be betting on the Nuggets at plus 225 to win the division. Like, this is.
I didn't know Towns was going to tear his meniscus, but yeah.
You think Towns was the reason that Minnesota was going to finish ahead of the Nuggets?
I think Towns.
Kyle Carl Anthony Towns. I'm going to start calling you KKT.
A lot more difficult for us. KKT. We talked about it. They're the most difficult matchup not because they can stop Jokic, but because you double with size.
We're not talking about head to head. We're talking about whether they're going to finish ahead of them in the Western Conference.
Well, but we play them 3 more times, is what I'm saying. So I'm saying if they would have gone 2-1, they'd be 3-1 in the season series, and we'd be in trouble.
Just to be 100% clear with all of the audience, I did cash out my bet for double the amount that I put in. I cashed it straight out. I'm not gonna be worried about that. So, see you just hit a big shot there, Kyle?
See you, yeah. So I do think that there's a general lack of respect for people just gloss over the Nuggets and they go, I mean, this is just a well-built team. But I go back to Chris Finch after we knocked the Timberwolves out of the playoffs. Chris Finch goes on a monologue. And I forget who was on, so forgive me. I can't give him credit. But he's like, well, you have Jokic. He's like, so you try to go big. He's like, but then you got to chase Porter around. So that's a problem. He's like, and so then Jokic just pulls your rim protector outside and goes and sets picks. And now you got to chase all these shooters around. He's like, plus you got all the other size inside. So it's not like Jokic needs to rim protect. He can play at the level, which his hands are unbelievable, and he's finally starting to get more credit for that. This isn't you can't just gloss over it and say roster construction. You need to say these guys are good NBA players, and they would be good in any context. Yes, Jokic elevates them to great, but it's not like Aaron Gordon was a bum. Aaron Gordon was good. Orlando made the playoffs with a lack of talent with Aaron Gordon as their best player.
I have never vehemently disagreed with you more. I think all of these Nuggets players are trash, and nobody should want to sign them. Nobody should ever want to sign them. And I can't believe that you would give Aaron Gordon this much credit. I mean, he has not been unbelievable in the dunker spot. He definitely hasn't shot 99% from that unrestricted area down there where Jokic just finds him. And honestly, the KCP thing from 3 has been just, what are we talking about? It's been a little inconsistent during the regular season. I don't know. I don't know whether I feel comfortable with that or not. And then,
You'd rather have Austin?
If I could. Honestly, though, the guy is... Listen to his podcast. He's the best player in the NBA. He's been getting up those shots. I think that this Nuggets roster construction is actually, it's not better than last year. It's hard to compare the two. But it's really
what you had
good.
to do.
It's really good.
What you had to do. with the money that's being paid.
You couldn't offer Bruce Brown $15 million and then trade his ass. For sure, you couldn't do the latter of those two. No. Like, Indiana was just like, oh, yeah, let's drop a bag and then get rid of him in this deal to Toronto. Yeah. Like, honestly, I kind of wish Toronto would buy him out just so we could pick him back up again. But no, what do Nuggets fans want? You want a more dynamic rookie and a more dynamic sophomore than Peyton Watson and Christian Brown? Like, I was standing 6 feet away from, what's the GM's name?
Booth.
Yeah, Calvin Booth. I was standing 6 feet away. I sent you guys a picture, and I wanted to. I was watching Jokic warm up, and I was more starstruck by Calvin Booth than I was by Jokic, because I just wanted to shake his hand and be like, "Listen, man, I really appreciate what you've done with this team. Like, you can't have asked for anything more. You really can't." So, thank you, Calvin.
Yep. No, agreed. We've gone over an hour, so I don't want to keep the people. We could keep going, but there's more Nuggets basketball to be had. Also, shout out McKinnon and the Avs. They're also first in the division. They're crushing. We could have 2 MVPs here. So enjoy this before the Rockies season starts. And then we're going straight from that sadness right into the Rockies of football. So enjoy this happiness.
I am dedicated to shitting on the Rockies until they get better.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I'm gonna make that my mission. We're recording every week during the summer through the Paris Olympics, which could get a little hairy for your guy in terms of gambling advice. I might have to be feeding Kyle's picks. So we'll be producing content throughout the entire summer. So that's a very exciting prospect for all of you. And Kyle, what else you got to say?
I got nothing.
What is behind you? Is that R2-D2 in a box, or what's going on over your left shoulder there? What's going
on? It's an Amazon box that is open, and I don't know. There's some shoes behind me as well for our listeners. But when we've gotten to the point where we're discussing Amazon boxes and the shoes over my left shoulder, we know it's time to wrap it up. So thank you for listening. Please rate and subscribe. We're only going to be going more and stronger during the Avs Nuggets playoff run. It's a great time to get people to join in. We had a great time during the playoffs last year, and I think we really produced great content. So I stand by that.
We go to almost all of the games, so it's hard not to. Yeah. Yep.
But thank you for listening. Thank you for our super producer, Dan the Man, producing this thing. And we will talk to you next week. Boom.
Blucifer Brothers is a Crab Shell Media podcast.